Thank you for having me. How many people here are entrepreneurs that run their own company? Okay, pretty much everybody. Corporate people? Looking to be entrepreneurs? Okay, cool. I love it, I love it. Want to be preneurs, that's good. I'll share a quick story because we are very complimentary to what you walk through and kind of where we come into this. And it reminded me of the corporate world when I was working in the corporate side of things. Being an introverted person, I wasn't very good at being in where I needed to be because I was always moving around. So my team decided that they needed my presence, so they actually made a dummy and put it in the chair with a fake computer so that they felt that their team person was there. So I totally understand this being in an office space makes a big difference for your companies. And there is a lot that's happening in this space with hybrid, and I built my first company as being hybrid. So I made sure that we didn't have an office because that wasn't my comfort spot for it. So for 15 years, we didn't have an office in Toronto. We did have offices in the Philippines and Pakistan when we built the companies there, but I was just going to them, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I think you'll see that there's always a solution for the types of teams you're looking for and the culture that you're trying to get out of it. And number one, it's always about how hard the founder and the executive team work is how hard the rest of the business is going to work. And if they can't see you hauling ass, then you're going to have a team that doesn't engage and work the same way. People don't want to work for somebody that doesn't take the time to work or engage with them. So, but I'll digress. Okay, so this is a bit about a little bit of a different style of discussion because we're venture capitalists, so we invest in early stage companies. I've been working with early stage companies for over 25 years. When I started as a software engineer working for Loblaws, built out their e-commerce platforms, and then took over and ran the businesses on that side of it. And this was 25 years ago. So inside of that, it was very new to what e-commerce was going to be, and as you were mentioning earlier. And because of that learning, I started getting a lot of companies that would be pitching Loblaws. And the front end admin people didn't know what I do, they just knew I worked a lot. I was there, first guy in the office, last guy to leave, because I just loved what I did. So you couldn't tell what I did, but they just knew I loved it, and they just sent me startups. So the great thing that came out of this is that because I got so many startups coming to me, I decided to start working with them. So every startup that came in, I would re-engineer their models and then sell them through to executives inside of Loblaws. So that's how I couldn't invest at the time, and I was getting companies with from Google, you name it, all the way across, first time in. But I couldn't do those things I wanted to do, but I still had the vision of these startups are going to change the world. I want to be part of that. I'm going to help them work their way through corporate. And that's where I got started working with early stage companies. I eventually left, went to a startup, and then created my first company, which is a resourcing firm, which is called Hardboot. And from that business, as I mentioned, we built it to be a virtual-based business to start, and offices in other countries. And the premise behind how we kind of moved through all of this cycle and the things that I learned was that we focused on engineering because it was my background. And then when we got into the investor side, it was because it was the next progression is that as I got the ability to build my first company, I got the opportunity to start investing in the companies. And then once I started investing, I started to get the companies coming back saying, hey, we need help raising funds. How can you help us? And from there, we decided we will create our own venture firm, which was called OPN. And the Open People Network became our lead generator. So we then started running live events. We've run over 100 and I'll say 120, it's probably more, but I don't remember the specific date number. But we run a lot of events. They were in person all across Canada, globally, and we moved them all during COVID to just a simple model called E2E, which is entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. And from this structure, we then had deal flow to start investing in companies. And that's what we focused on was early stage, first money in, pre-seed companies. We want to be the lead, we want the risk, because we understand the markets and we want to be able to get behind these companies. We started off as deep tech, fintech, and CPG. So those are the three areas, which is my background. And then from there, we've now shifted our third fund, which is under the supporters fund, into the green space. So we're actually going into the circular regenerative space because we wanted to be somewhere where we could build an impact, go somewhere where not everybody's familiar with, and help build that model up over the next 10 to 20 years. So we've now rebranded to shift into that space. So that's kind of where we sit now. So the way we wanted to approach it is that we talked to a lot of companies globally. Today I was on an event this morning out of Italy. So we went on and we were judging or helping with the companies that were pitching. And we do this because, one, it gives the founders a better idea of how to pitch for money and how they should be talking to investors and follow through and build companies. So it's very complementary to how you're taking a business through scale up. We're doing the same thing, except for I'm going to share with you a little bit more of a model of all of the things I didn't do building a company that you should do that will help you build a proper company, but doing it in a different fashion. Because we all focus on one thing, which is how do I raise funds? And I'm going to tell you that you can change that. So today is not about being a unicorn or a billionaire, or how to pitch, how to pivot, what investors want. So it's tough to read this and tap at the same time. Or what the world needs more of. These are all learned abilities. You're going to go through this test your whole life. Today's about starting, owning a slice of your vertical, finding your space, your line to greatness. Today is your time to be independent, dependable, a leader, a movement we can all get behind. And you can resonate with this. This isn't about raising funds. This isn't about going and chasing money when you can build a sustainable, structural company. It's about starting and building a future as an entrepreneur. It's focus, it's risking it all, and it's learning and growing. It's about the journey, making money. It's about your why and how your actions can achieve it. So today we're preparing you how to your future as an entrepreneur. And the reason I put this together was I was doing a presentation maybe 2 months ago for an accelerator. It was all early stage companies. And everybody has this mindset that I need to raise venture. And this is where I said, you can build a great company. Why are you all chasing for money that only 3% of the world gets? So you need to pivot your mindset. Become business ready through storytelling and through actions. And to start that off, why startups fail? 42% have built a product that there's no market need for. 29% of them run out of money, and 23% of them have the wrong team. You can see the rest of them. Why those are impactful? The biggest one is there was no market. They just wanted to build something. Think of the time and energy wasted because you didn't want to test the market. Running out of money is probably more common than we all believe. Source of financing. Typically, startups are funded personally. Venture capital and angel investing makes up 6% of the market. So just think that the amount of time you're pitching for funding, the competition level that is so high. And I know there's all this stuff out there about women are underfunded, and this doesn't do this. Everybody is underfunded because they're all chasing a small amount of dollars. And to the point you brought up, 98% of Canada is made up of small business. Imagine if you built a company that generated revenue, that made some profit, that helped you pay your bills, and over the years, you started to grow, and in time, you were pulling in $2, $3, $4 million because you stuck behind a model that you saw was solving a real problem that people wanted to pay for and have. And I came to you and said, I want to invest in you because you have a profitable company, you've been around for 5 years, I want to give you $3 million and help you scale your company. Would you want the money, or would you say, no, I'm happy. I've built myself a nice lifestyle business, or I'm ready to take this to the moon because I have 20 great people behind me, we've built a great culture, and I'm willing to accept your money, now let's make this big. So there's different ways to look at how you build a company. And a lot of people will push, obviously, to get money right away because they want to reduce their risk. But the companies that have been successful didn't do it that way. They didn't go out and raise a ton of money right away. They literally tried to find market fit. And we see it more and more every day that venture is starting to shift, and they're looking for profitable companies because they don't want to risk losing all their money. because the last 3 years has been the worst 3 years in venture, in high valuations, dumping money, and now they're all fighting to get money from investors because they're seeing that companies are failing. Companies that are doing $1 billion are failing. So it's kind of scary on how people have been looking at their business models. 60% of the S&P is supported by 5 companies. 60% of the S&P is all losses, not even a profitable base company. So we're chasing. So these things are going to share are ways for you to think about, how can I get people interested in my business? How can I get people interested in what I'm doing without actually opening the door to take what you need until you're ready to need it? Which is the same thing you were saying when you're hiring. You're hiring when you need that person, and if it's part-time, it's always about managing money and how you can manage your business and growth. So actions speak louder than words, and really get shit done. So many people will say, oh, I'll get that to you. Oh, I'm going to do that. And feels like 99% of the time it never comes through. Action things. Cut back the number of times you're talking to people. If you're going to have 1,000 people to talk to, you have 1,000 responses, which creates 1,000 this and 1,000 this. You'll never get it done, and you'll be inundated and burnt out in a year. Find the right people. Go after the 5 people. Go after the 6 people, and make sure you focus on them. And close one of them. Then go to the next 6. But focus on ways that are going to generate you value without killing yourself on trying to manage 8 million relationships and 400 conversations. Do what you say what you do. Again, supporting yourself and driving. If someone on an investor side, I see this all the time, I'll send you that deck, you'll get it within 12 hours. I get it 3 weeks later. I already forgot. And it's not because I'm being implicit and I just don't care. It's literally because you had me engaged at that time. Do what you say and follow up with it. Challenge yourself, your business, and your teams. This is a reason that culture can work better, is that if you're creating timelines that are undeliverable, that's what creates people to come together to find ways to make it happen. And you might sit there and your team will be complaining, oh, this is ridiculous, who can get this done in a month? And then you pull it off, and that brought the team together. Because you had to find ways to make this work and that work, and it works out in the end. And even if you missed it by 3 or 4 days, if you didn't put that tight timeline, you probably would have done it in 4 months. Because everybody here would have been like, oh, it's time for coffee. Everybody would have taken so many breaks you wouldn't have delivered. Passion creates drive and enables others. And I talked about this before, that your passion as a founder, your relentless effort to drive wins. And I remember when I started, this was probably year 4 or something, I started to run a test. This is when Skype was always active and it showed you green light and all that stuff. I literally, if I closed it down, my team would shut down. I watched and I was able to see that my actions delivered my team's reactions. And if they saw that my Skype wasn't running, they figured it was time to take the day off. So I had to find ways to trigger them, creating shorter timelines, working in smaller teams, 15-minute meetings. We never do a meeting that's longer than 30 minutes in my company in 15 years. And the reason is that 30-minute plus, you've lost everybody. 15 minutes, get what you need done, make it work. There's a great book called Change, which is, it's about change, which is called Switch, and it's by the Heath brothers. And this really is going to emphasize how you look at your business and how you make changes. And I have a talk on this, but how many people carry their phone in their right pocket or wherever, their purse? Have you tried putting it in your left pocket? Have you tried putting it somewhere else, in a bag, every day? You'll think you lost your phone. You'll go out of your mind. Your brain rewires itself to the fastest route for you to accomplish A to B. So you'll always, my phone's always here. If I put it in this pocket, even though you can feel it, you'll be like, oh my God, I lost my phone. Because your brain has already written that path. Same way you drive to work, same way you do anything. So just imagine you're building a startup, how difficult this can be for you to come out and tell someone they need to change this whole process because you've got the best process. It's not going to work that easily. So you need micro changes, things that coach people into that change. So all of these things are about ways to work with people, work with your team. You can't expect someone that does marketing to now become the CEO of your company. without any learning, without any gradual build-up. So everything is a learning stage that's going to get you interested to now follow up tomorrow, and then all of a sudden you've got a great partnership. So all of it is just one action, and I implore you to do that. I created a program, I was teaching at Seneca College, and I created a program for the students that they gained 5% in the class. They had to go to a conference outside of the college or university for 5%, and they had to take a picture of the ticket, a selfie, because I trust nobody, because they will make it up, they didn't go. They went and they didn't go. So they had to do a selfie at the space, and they had to get 3 business cards. And when they submitted this, 80% of the students that submitted it, of the 80% that submitted, because 20% of people still didn't do this for the 5%, of those people, they all said they did not want to be there, they had no interest to go, and when they got there and they met those people, they loved it. One person was like, I got a job out of it, because they no expectations, but they also were afraid to just to go and introduce themselves. And this forced them to do something they wouldn't do, which is what I didn't do when I was in school. And I wish I did. So I always kind of found ways to help other people think about it, which is thinking outside the box. You know, there's guerrilla marketing, there's all of these things that you can do, but always think outside the box. How can I engage somebody? How can I work with somebody different? What ways can I get somebody interested in what I'm doing? We created a podcast, and in the podcast, I ask rapid fire questions, personal and business, at the end of the podcast. And the reason I do it is because I'm asking questions that I wouldn't personally ask. I'm not a small talk person, so I ask questions to get info. Big Mac, Chicken McNugget, that's a question. But the value of that is now I know. What's your favorite movie and what character did you play? Now I can relate to you, and I understand how to relate to you because you think you're Neo from Matrix. Now I can figure out how to work with you. Batman or Robin, or sorry, Superman or Batman. Now I know that you either think that you are invincible and you're Superman and you have all these powers, or you think you're Batman and you have no powers, but you're going to fight the world to get what you want. 98% of investors pick Batman. Very few investors pick Superman. But you learn these things, and these questions help you come up and say, hey, you're Superman. Or, hey, I think you'd like this. Now I got something on you, engages you into me, and now we can have a conversation, and I've de-risked it right away. So find those nuggets on people. Know your space, the leaders, outliers, and the prodigies. These are other ways that are going to help you network. I had a guy at an event, this is probably 10 years ago, and he was like, saw me, and he was eyeing me up throughout the event. And I saw him, and I was like, kind of put my head down, like, what's this guy staring at me? And he weaved his way through, and he came up, and he shook my hand, and he said, Jerry Potvin, you work for this company. You own this, you do this, you did this, you do this. He knew so much about me, I was creeped out. But the value is that he won me over because he knew about everything that I was doing, and that to me was impressive because he took the time to figure it out. And it was the same thing I do when I go to an event. I want to know 3 people before I get there. I know everything about them. When I go there, I find those 3 people and I leave, because that's what gets me to the event. So find your ways to get in there. Know the space. The leaders is so important. If you're building a company that's in fintech and it's in credit card payments, you should know every single person that does anything inside of credit card payments. You can talk about them. You can layer who they are. You can do everything, because that shows that you know what you're talking about and you've been in that business, even if it's only been 6 months. It's so crucial. And then figure out who the companies are that are coming after you, because as you build, there's always 10 more behind you. And this goes into the build meaningful relationships. Build relationships with the founders, investors, industry leaders. These are crucial to you in building your company. You'll see people that will say on their list that they've got these advisors and these coaches. And then you'll ask them, how much time you spend? Well, we talked to you 8 months ago. Well, that's not really bringing the value you need in order to grow your company. How do you get more time with them? How do you get the right person that understands their model, that has 30 years at MasterCard, that's going to give you the time and day that you need in order to build your company? That carries a lot of weight, especially to investors. A lot. Knowing other founders, talking with founders. You learn a lot from other founders, what they go through. I can't remember what the term was called, but it was, you gained your stripes or something when you get sued. So I've been sued many times. And it is very stressful, and it is not something we want to go through, but it's part of business, which is sad that that's how business has to be looked at. And you stand your ground, create your line, and you stick to what you're doing, because as long as you're doing the right things, you will always move forward and everything will fall in the right place. If you do the wrong things, you'll lose your company and everything will fall apart. So always create the balance of where you're going, but understand the people around you. Talk to other founders that are going to tell you, hey, I used these lawyers, I did this, I went to these accountants, they're terrible, they're good. That stuff is all good networking. And it's building relationships with other founders, because as you grow, in 10 years, you want to be an investor. You may not think that now, but in 10 years you will. And why are you going to want to be an investor? Because you worked with 6 other founders, and now those founders are investing, you're going to want to do the same. So you're going to be working with that group of people. So as you elevate up, so does everybody else. Like the people you went to school with, today you're all marketing coordinators. But in 10 years, you're now all vice presidents of marketing. So don't you think that would be good people to stay connected with and working with? So building meaningful relationships. When you go to meetings, have an ask. Don't be afraid to have an ask. Every meeting, even here, hey, I'm looking to meet this person. Can you introduce me to them? Oh, you can do it right now. I'm willing to wait. Everything is about getting something because you're giving something. You're obviously, they want to meet with you. You're offering some value, get some value back. If you walk away with nothing, then why did you waste that hour or that half hour? Gain some value. Give back a lot of value too. A lot of the times I will say, and I'm not saying this so that you guys will be like, okay, I better do this next time. But I will share that 98% of the time when a founder pitches me or talks to me or meets with me, they never will ask me what I'm looking for. When those 2% of people ask me, I'm floored. I'm like, wow, okay, this is a keeper, this person I want to work with. Because they're going above and beyond just, hey, I'm here to ask because I want. But where's the reciprocal piece? What can you do for me? Not that I'm asking for it, I don't want it, and I don't take anything. But the point is that if you ask, can I help you with someone? I know a great person that would fit on your podcast. Am I going to want to work with you now? Or am I be like, nope, I'm only looking for the 98% of people that want something. So I'm not interested to talk to you. So think about how you can help other people and pass it along. Because you help someone else, that's going to bring you benefit later on as well. So the follow-up with meeting, which gets shit done, that's all part of it. Follow up. When you got to follow up with 1,000 people, you'll never do it. But if you have a strategic amount of people you're going after, you can keep following up with them. They will eventually talk with you. I met a gentleman yesterday, one of our portfolio companies, met with him, the founder, and he brought 3 investors with him. And we sat down, and the one gentleman was very social, very talkative guy, but super nice, really, really amazing person. And he said, oh, I need your number, we're going to talk. He sent me I said, all right, well, I don't know, WhatsApp, adds me on. And he sends me a message, hey, great meeting you, all this excitement. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I got a voicemail right away. Let's meet, and this was literally this afternoon, it was at 11 o'clock. Let's meet at 4:30. We're gonna talk. And I was like, oh my God, I just met you yesterday and we're already moving so fast in this dating process. What do I do? And I panicked. I didn't even know what to say, because to me, my brain is like, wow, this is so fast. Yes, he's a nice guy. Yes, he's an investor. Okay, what do I do? And I literally didn't respond because I had to process this through, because it's so fast I didn't know what to do. So eventually I said, oh, all right, hey, I can talk to you in 15 minutes when I'm walking. This was literally from 11 o'clock, and this was at 5:30. So, and he jumped on the call with me, and we chatted, and it was awesome, because this person literally walked me through and taught me to learn how to network better, how to build relationships better, by the fact that he said, I will call you and text you at least twice. If you don't respond, it was nice knowing you, I tried. But I had an interest to meet with you, so that's why I tried, and you responded. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I've learned so much from this guy in 2 days, because he walked in the room, he hugged us. I'm not a hugger, hugged. He's like, we got to hug. And I was like, oh my God. And then after that, he was, I want to talk to you, and he kept, and this guy, he's like, here's my picture, and it was him doing some yoga moves. And I was like, oh, he's just a really great person. And he's 75 years old. And he invests in companies, and he has so much energy and passion, and he knows how to network and build relationships. He invested in another company that was one of our portfolio companies. And he's like, yeah, Chris and his family came down last weekend. And I was like, wow, I've never even thought of having somebody come to my place. It just didn't cross my mind as being that, but he was all about the relationship. He's like, I'm not going to give you money until I know that you and I have got a relationship, that we can depend on each other for something, and let's build some values. So to me, that, I literally said to him, I said, I learned so much just in the last 24 hours talking to you that my brain doesn't go that way, and wow, did I learn a lot. So anybody can change you, but just remember that everything is about your actions, following up and working with people. So be the best. And I had someone once say to me, well, what do you mean be the best? How can I be the best? I already think I'm the best. Well, in your mind, you have to be the best, and you may not be the best. You might be number 2. But number 2 is still better than 3 and 4 and 5. So do your best to work your ass off to find your market, find your lane, and drive it. Set goals, business KPIs, have a strategy, have a plan, and have focus. Focus is so big in what you do. We can be everything. If you look at the very first website I built for my company 15 years ago, you would probably walk me out of here, because we had a lot of jobs that we were doing, and we just put them on a big funnel, and we're like, hey, this is the wheel, man, we do everything. Well, everything is not memorable, and people can't figure out what you do. And we tell people, solve one problem. Be the best at that one thing. I don't care if you do 4,000 other things behind the scenes, just do one. Tell everybody to do one thing, and I guarantee they'll remember you for the one thing, and they'll come to you for that one thing. And then when they're with you and you're networking and you've built a relationship, they're gonna ask you to do something else because you showed them that you could do the one thing. Now you're doing 2 things for them. But be the best at one thing. And then your team will align because you've got strategy, you've got focus, you've got direction. Entrepreneurs, my favorite is there is no can't or cannot as an entrepreneur. You are a solutionist. You didn't go to be an entrepreneur because you got nothing better to do and you're bored. You did it because you're solving a problem, and your brain is solving problems. And the best way to look at an entrepreneur's brain is when you walk into Skydome, or whatever they call it now, when you walk into the Blue Jays Center, this is the brain of an entrepreneur. It is vast. You thinking you got 1 million doors, gateways, chairs. That's how an entrepreneur thinks. Options. When you walk into a business person's brain, we're in it right now. Actually, no, probably the room over there, the one that you said closed off in security, that is a business brain. Why? Because their job was to hyper-focus down on be one thing and be the best. Your goal as an entrepreneur is to take the brain of going into the Blue Jay Stadium and make it that box. If you want to sell your company, you need to go from big space to little space. And that happens from focus. Because you're filling one little spot for a big company. When they buy you, they're not going and saying, oh, this guy's amazing. This lady's super awesome. She does so many things. We should be able to fit her anywhere in this company. Nope. They're saying, we've got a gap right here, and we're going to buy you because you have $400 million in revenue, and you do this one thing we don't do. We want to buy you to fill that hole. You have to build your business to fill that one hole. So there's no can't. Make money and don't be afraid of it, own it. Just like the whole talk earlier on about it, it's all about how you build your company. You're going to chase venture, it's tough, and if you don't have a great company, it's tough to raise. So focus on making money. You know, people come and say, oh, I got half my money comes from consulting, half it comes from the product. Great. Keep it going until you can get everything into the product side. Then it's cookie cutter, it's printing money. But focus on surviving and building as much dollars as you can. No one's going to get mad at you because you made money. So, art of the pitch, again, this goes back to you're learning to get in front of people, learning to build meaningful relationships, and now you're getting into the art of the pitch. In this case, look at it as someone says to you, you've got 20 minutes to pitch. You're going to allocate 15 to 20% of your time is going to be your pitch. Because you need to show people you're personable, that you're smart, you can answer questions, you can talk with people. So many people will spend 20 minutes pitching for 20 minutes. No interaction, no questions. I can't figure out if you know what you're talking about, but you're really good at talking in front of a pitch. Allocate a small amount of your time, 20%, so you're looking at a 4-minute pitch. The rest of the time is Q&A. and you have somebody else lined up to ask you questions. If you don't, you have your own questions to ask the audience, meaning you're telling people what they didn't ask. Why waste 20 minutes? You've got a whole audience, give them everything. Oh, we get asked this question a lot, and this question, and then answer it. People will eventually start to ask you questions. The key is that you own the room and you get information out so people can see that you have all of these elements of a leader and everything else that they want to invest in. So build engagement, keep it short, 8 to 10 slides, 2 slides minimum or maximum on problem and solution. This is, of course, if you're now going after venture. So you're going to look at 2 slides for problem solution. Why? Because you got one problem, you got one solution. That's it. Not 14 problems, one problem, one solution. And how to make money is the other % of your deck. The other 80% of your slides is how does this business make money? How will it make money and how is it making money? So you define your problem, and then people are going to look at this. How can you commercialize this business? Is there a way to commercialize this business? And if there is, that's what's going to get you further ahead. Because I have to be able to understand that I can take this business, add in 10 salespeople, which is give you $1 million, and that is going to create 10 million. And you can cookie cutter that because you have it figured out that it takes you 30 minutes or 3 days to close a customer. Because that's how interested they are. That's commercialization. That fits into the scale-up model as you're stepping through. Investors are going to come in and say, hey, you know what? If I throw money on this, you're going to be able to double and triple your business. I'm in. Not, hey, I want to help out on HR and I want to help out here. No, they care about sales and generating value because that creates company cap table value. And adjust your slides to meet your audience. Not every audience is going to be listening the same way and understanding if you're pitching an institution versus an angel group versus a venture versus a green group. Shift and modify to your audience. And we're almost done. So the last thing is that when we have companies that unfortunately do fail, we do exit interviews. We want to learn what they learned from this. And I put this in because I think everybody should gain some value from learning what other people will fail. I know that the human brain is, I would rather fail myself so that I learn the hard way. Well, hopefully one of these things will take and you'll be like, I didn't have to learn the hard way, but that's really the point of why we all meet and share. So these are the 6 things, just high level. The one that I'll point out in a second is, treat your business like it's in a recession. Always stay lean. Stop hiring for ego. Everybody does it. Oh, I've got 100 people working for me, but I can't make bankroll. Well, because I'm so eager about driving this big business. How about I have 6 people that work for me and I'm generating 100 million in revenue? Are you guys going to be wanting to work for them and be happy about it? Because I do. I want to work for them. So figure out what's going to generate the value. So hire for pain, not for ego. Painkiller versus vitamin. This is crucial. If you're starting a company and you are a vitamin, vitamins are always the one that they let go during a recession, during a problem. Painkillers are the ones that people keep coming back for. Be the painkiller. Take risk and ask for forgiveness after. The company literally had built up such a strong structure governance-wise that they couldn't spread across Canada without a lot of money. Their competitors came in and they didn't do any governance and they spread across Canada super fast, gained a lot of money, and they were gaining so much ground on them because they went through the procedural side to make it perfect so that they didn't get problems by the SEC and everybody else, and the other group just plowed through, and then at the end, SEC came and said, hey, you can't do that, and they said, oh, really? Okay, what can we do to fix it? And they worked with them to fix it. So they ended up losing because they didn't take the risk. Take the acquisition when it's offered. When they first got offered an acquisition for 50 million or 36 million, they said, no, we're way better than that. We can do better. They ended up just selling for IP. Markets downshifted, no choice, couldn't compete. Build runway, cash flow, and earn. So the whole thing is about how do I make money fast and test the market and get the money as quick as you can. So at the end, remember, love what you do and be damn good at it. So that's us. Sorry I went a little longer, but I got a little more excited to share stories. But yeah, that's, and this is Laura, so she's fantastic. And she pretty much runs everything, but yeah, that's us. But thank you very much for everybody, and I'm happy to answer any questions or whatnot.
Yeah, any questions? Let's throw some questions at JP, and then we'll move over to a more casual. We venture capital for your company, usually they want a piece of your company return, right? For the other kinds of investment, is it the same?
In what sense, other kinds of investment?
Like if you look at angel investors or you look at, right?
Yeah, there's a mix. Angel investors usually come in first.
Yeah.
So I've made lots of angel investments, and you can seed them for other investments later. But angels usually come in at the early stage, high risk. They take equity. Usually it can be set up as a SAFE, which is a convertible note, is typically the case. And then in the future, whenever they raise a Series A, they may do the whole conversion into equity at that time. Every business has a different structure on how they do it. But typically, as an angel, you'll come in, you can request it if, depending on the founder, they might do it, say, we'll do it one round and we'll do it all as equity. And then the rest of them they'll do in safes and they'll do debt. There are debt options, of course, as another way. Debt doesn't usually come in at early. You usually can get debt when you have a certain amount of revenue. Typically, you're looking at, I'd say, 500 to 1.5 million in revenue. Then you can start to acquire some form of debt. CPG is a bit different. Debt works good as long as you can pay it back and as long as you can forecast that you're going to be able to grow it. Because if you don't, it can be the worst thing too. It can be a double-edged sword and kill you while you're working. Because you can't pay the debt back, they call the debt. Senior level debt can take over your company and kick you out because you didn't do the right things, and then they own the IP. There's a lot of things that go in it. Obviously, it's very rare that that'll happen because nobody wants to take over nothing. So usually that senior debt and everything else comes in at larger raises when you're getting into a Series A, Series B, when you're raising anywhere, say 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 million. So it does shift as you grow. And there's obviously non-dilutive options. There is a ton of groups. Everywhere you can look for non-dilutive dollars, which is government grants, everything that people can offer that you don't have to pay for is another way to get dollars. So you might see someone that will say, I raised $1 million and 400 of it came from non-dilutive options, which means it doesn't dilute your cap table, but you had 600,000 that came off as an equity on the cap. The other 400,000 is like free money that you don't have to do anything to pay back. So a lot of angel groups will push you to find ways to do that and prove that you have the ability to hunt for non-dilutive dollars. Which indirectly it's all messed if you think about it. It's just government money and then that's taxpayer money. So literally you're just, it's like a loophole or something. I'm getting free money, which is really all our money. So it's not really that free. But no one looks at it that way and I'm overanalyzing it. So any other questions? Yeah.
So Canadian startup ecosystem, because you have been here for a bit time, I've seen most of the startups are building to exit, not to grow. Where in US I see a lot of it is they're building it, but there is a lot of growth. They focus on growth. So what do you have any opinion about it? Why is that so much in Canada that people are building to exit? Like I have talked to so many startups, and most of the times people are talking about, I'm in here for 3 years, and then I'm going to sell out and then move on to the next thing.
I'm going to make a guess in certain circumstances is that there's not a lot of capital in Canada, so there's not a lot of investors. I think it's something like 2% of Canadians are accredited and only, maybe it's a bit more, and only 1% actually invest, less than 1%. And in the US, it's double that. So all these things make a difference when you're trying to raise funds. A lot of companies usually go to Series A or even seed, they'll go to the US. They're pushed to sell, and it makes sense. You're going to have a chunk of companies that will always want to sell themselves before they get to Series A. And I would say that if you do this in the correct manner, only so many companies are venture backed, right, and scalable that way. So this is where a lot of founders will end up losing their company and failing, is that they think that their company is venture backable all the way through. But venture backable means that if I give you 20 million, you're making 40 million. If I give you 40 million, you're making 100 million. So this is all how you scale the company. So a lot of early founders will think they have a business that is scalable like that, but it's probably not scalable in Canada, and they need to be in another market, US or somewhere else, and they don't have the ability, understanding to how to take it that way. So they tend to want to sell, which is rightfully so, they should, because then they can take that money, go build another company and do it a different way and make more money faster. So typically it's in and out because it takes you 5 years probably on average to get to that first exit, which would be around that Series A, Series B side of things. So I think it's because we don't have the support and backing that the media tells us that, you know, Toronto's the biggest tech sector, it's amazing. It's not like that. It's very smoke and mirrors, unfortunately. If this is being recorded, I'm going to get lambasted. But it literally goes back to the US that everybody has to shift into a space where you have the full support and you have backing dollars that can come in at all different layers. Not to say they don't in Canada, but in Canada they also have, say, 20 major players that can take you to a Series E, D stage. Well, in the US you have 200 or 2,000 players that can do that. So it's very hard for a business here to see that they can go further. So it does make sense to take that early exit. If you can get 20, 30, 50 million on the exit, it's not a bad thing.
So becoming an angel investor or VC level is far. We have the rules like US that in order to become an angel investor, you have almost the same rules.
Correct.
But we don't have capital. So if this becomes very hard because you're not letting other people to become investors also.
Yeah, you have like social platforms now where you can invest, but it's just smaller dollars. So there are ways that they're opening up everywhere across the world, which is also helpful because you can just throw in money into other companies. So like Front Funder is one that you can go in and throw a few dollars into each of one. And you just have to state, yeah, this is how much I make. And it tells you this is how much room you have based on your income that you can invest. So you can go in there and just throw money, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then you don't have the same say, knowledge, and backing into the company because it's social, so it's all done on one cap table, one line on the cap table, and then you get updates. But it's valuable. I've done multitudes of them because I don't have to do any work other than I know the company. I'm not going to invest in the fund. I'm going to either invest personally in it, or I can just throw a few dollars in it and watch the company until they're ready for the fund to come in. So there's lots of ways, and you should try all the platforms. I've done all of them, and you mix around. And of course, on the direct ones, you've got to put the time into it. So there's a big difference when you're an angel investor and you're just going into platforms. You don't have to do anything. You're diversifying your investment. But if you're going into a company, you have to manage that. Or at least I do, because I'm just going to go give somebody money and then hopefully they do something with the business. I want to work with that company because I see the value. I can make connections. I can hook them up here. I can bring them here. All of those things are valuable. And that's what founders are looking for, especially early on. So you can help founders that way.
I do similar work to Michelle on a much smaller scale. And just for the first time, I recently started doing some implementation, process development work with a blockchain startup that got funded $3 million. And it's my first time doing like VC funded, like working for a company that's been VC funded. And an assumption that I immediately made when I saw there's no process, there's no documentation, there's nothing. Everybody's just randomly doing things. There's all developers, one salesperson, no marketing. And they were trying to get more funding. And an assumption I made, and I want to see if it's correct, is would VCs value knowing that there's process in place, that there's a CRM strategy, a customer journey is defined, there's a project management strategy? Is that of value if that was mentioned to them?
Big time.
Other people don't seem to think so. I've mentioned this to CEOs, and they're like, no, they don't care.
It depends on what you're looking for, right?
Right.
Run and gun companies, like it's the same thing. We do deep dive on the code if we're going to invest in the company. We want to learn how they build their code. A lot of investors may not do that. And a lot of investors may wait for somebody else to do all the due diligence. So since we're first money and we do all of our own due diligence, so we have Excel documents of, we need all this legal paperwork, we need all these financial paperwork. So once we go through all of that, then we put it into a document and say, hey, we like this. This has all these checks and boxes. This is 80% on our target list. So this is a good investment. Let's go forward and make the money, investment money. Because we get scrutinized on the back end. So if our investors look at it and say, well, they don't even have a CRM. They said they did $1 million. They didn't even get a bank statement. So how do you know this is actually real? Oh, yeah, good point. So we don't want to go through that. So we try to cover off as much as we can. Now, the problem is that once you make that investment, what they do after that, you lose out. They could be like, shut down the CRM, shut this down, shut this down, shut this down. And smoke and mirrors, now you're into a business that didn't do any of those things. So there's it's kind of a two-way street when you're working with the founders. You want to be as engaged as you can, but all of those pieces that they've built in, as long as it's cost effective and not going to sink the company because the costs are too high. They're all using the super advanced HubSpot for $20,000 a month when the company's not even generating revenue. No, but if they're building in a track that's going to get them the data, the information, and the value, that's huge for an investment because you also now can govern it. And board seats, advisor roles, coaching roles, those are also crucial forward, and answer questions that they didn't know about on a governance side or a financial side or how to hire differently. All of those things come in. But having process and understanding is quite easy to do, but it's inundating, and then the founders are like, oh, I don't have time. But that makes so much better value for your team to coherently work together. So Slack, all that stuff can be built in. So I wholeheartedly support it. And they should put it in there when they're talking deep with an investor. They should say, hey, we've got all of these things processed, organized.
Technology either, right? If it's
Agreed.
Process, like,
Yep.
they'll ask you, how do you, fill in the blank?
Right.
How do you manage sales? How do you hire people? How do you fire people? How do you, right? You've got to be able to answer that.
And these values, like yourself and what you're doing, Ramel does this. She's process queen, like puts everything into a bucket, figures out how it all works, and then here's a system that can manage it. And those things are valuable because a founder can then leverage that. I understand it, cleans up the process. A close took me 3 months. Now it takes me 2 weeks. Now it takes me a week because I can use this system, attaches all the way through. I get their contact and I go forward. That's super valuable, especially when you're on the sales side, hugely. And how they use it is up to them, but I would tell them that they should, when they're talking in a deep conversation, explain the process. Why is this a better success? You'll see startups that'll say, when we started, it was a 6-month close to a client. We've now got it down to 3 weeks. And we think we can get it down to a week. Well, how's that? Well, we implemented these systems. They do all of this emailing campaign, so you've got 11 reach outs that'll occur. It brings this, they get them into a Zoom call, they get them, and this is the process. Well, that makes someone feel more comfortable that it's not just, I don't know, CEO calls someone and we hope we get a sale.
We're going to try and get 10 sales
Yeah. Yeah.
within the next quarter.
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Cool. All right. Thank you.